Hello children, welcome you again to our A Triumph of Surgery, Class 10, from the book Footprints Without Feet. In the last class we have seen Tricki was taken to the hospital by the doctor, and also we have seen that the household members of Mrs. Pumphrey was crying for missing our Tricki, isn't it? And the doctor was very stubborn enough to see that he himself went to hospitalize Tricki from their house. And Mrs. Pumphrey, who was very much worried about Tricki, she started providing all the necessary things needed for, isn't it? So on the way to hospital, the doctor was just giving a consolation talk to, consoling our Tricki by telling that you didn't have any energy right now, but for sure I'll get you better, isn't it? So this is what we have seen in the last class. And now, my children, take your textbook, page number 3. Let's continue the rest of the lesson. Okay. So, now they reach the hospital or at the surgery. Surgery means here the hospital. Okay. And now, let me read. Look in your textbook. Okay. At the surgery, the household dogs surged round me. Tricki looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes and when put down, lay motionless on the carpet. The other dogs, after sniffing round him for a few seconds, decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. So already we have seen that this paragraph shows that our Tricki was now in the hospital, but he was very weak, tired, he can't walk because you know that this Tricki was vomiting for 3-4 times, isn't it? And he was not taking much food also. Anyhow, maybe because of this reason, when he was taken to the hospital, when he reached the hospital, the household dogs surged round me. All the dogs that was in that hospital just surged around me. Surge means what? Moved towards or just was standing around this Tricki. Okay? All of them came and they were exactly looking at this Tricki. Tricki looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes. What is that noisy pack means? Pack means a group of dogs. The dogs were standing around him. He also started looking them with dull eyes because he was not having much courage or energy. Already we have seen that maybe the reason why he was not taking much food and he vomited a lot, isn't it? And now what happened? When put down, lay motionless on the carpet. When the doctor took him and put him down on the carpet, he was lying there motionless. Motionless means what? Without any movement, because he was so tired and he was very weak. Okay. Then what happened? The other dogs, after sniffing around him for a few seconds, decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. So what happened? The other dogs who were just standing around our Tricki, they started sniffing. What is that sniffing? Making noise with sound. Okay. Making sound using their nose. Okay. Just like sniffing. You know how dogs used to smell and they used to, when they say something with their nose, they used to take the smell. Here also, with some sound, they are just smelling him and making some noise with the nose and walking around our Tricki for some seconds. And they understood that, oh, this is something uninteresting because he was lying there only. No any other movement, isn't it, from the part of Tricki. So they felt so boring and they understood that he was not a good company to be with. So they just ignored him and they went. So what we see here is Tricki was taken at the hospital and all other Dogs gathered round, but they all left. Seems that he was so uninteresting. He was not doing any or looking at them with only with dull eyes, isn't it? Then next paragraph. I made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box next to the one where the other dogs slept. For 2 days I kept an eye on him, giving him no food but plenty of water. At the end of the second day, he started to show some interest in his surroundings, and on the third, he began to whimper when he heard the dogs in the yard. So what happened? The doctor has planned something for this Tricki. So when he was taken to the hospital, to the surgery, along with the other dogs, he was given a warm, loose box. That is his bed. Okay? And to where the other dogs also slept. You can just imagine how he was just spending his days in Mrs. Pumphrey's house, isn't it? Now here, he got a little box or a warm box, and that is how the bed of Tricki was made with other dogs. Okay. For 2 days, I kept an eye on him, giving him no food but plenty of water. What is the treatment the doctor was giving for the weakness and for vomiting, for not taking food? Already we have seen that the dog is just like a sausage, isn't it? Sausage? Fatty, and he can't even walk because of the weight of his body. So the intention of the doctor is to put him back into a strengthened body. So that's why at first he thought not to give any food for how many days? For 2 days he gave him no food, but instead what he gave? Plenty of water. And what happened at the end of the day? At the end of the second day, Tricki showed some interest in what? Interest in his surroundings. Okay? And because he heard that other dogs was playing outside. And on the third day, he gave his wish to go out and play with other dogs in the yard. Okay, so here it says at the end of the second day, he started to show some interest in the surroundings. That means he could raise his neck, he could stand on his feet, he can just move around, he's just getting, something good from this pale or weak atmosphere. Okay, and on the third day, he began to whimper. What is whimper? Whimper means make feeble sound of unhappiness, because he was only the one who was lying inside this surgery. All the other dogs were playing outside in the yard. So he also wanted to be there. So he felt so boring, tired, being all alone in the surgery. So he began to whimper. Whimper means make feeble sound of unhappiness. Okay. So when he heard the dogs in the yard, he also wanted to go there. Okay. So this is what we can see what happened to Tricki the first 3 days in the surgery. He was given a bed with other dogs in a warm box. Other dogs gathered, but they all left because he was not seemed interested, isn't it? And the treatment style of doctor was for 2 days he gave him no food but plenty of water. At the end of the second day, Tricki showed some interest in his surroundings, and on the third day, he made a wish that he wanted to go with other dogs to play. Okay, now let's continue the next paragraph. When I opened the door on the third day, when I opened the door, Tricki trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe, the greyhound, and his friends. After rolling him over and thoroughly inspecting him, the dogs moved off down the garden. Tricki followed them, rolling slightly with his surplus fat. So what happened? On the third day, when he gave a signal that he wanted to play with other dogs, what happened? The doctor just opened the door and let him go out. So when he opened the door, Tricki trotted out. Trotted out means moved very slowly or started running very slowly towards the other dogs, and was immediately engulfed by Joe. Engulfed means surrounded by. When he came out of the door to the yard, This Joey is another dog. That type is greyhound. That's a very big, dog. That dog just surrounded whom? Surrounded our Tricki. And all of the friends also came, because last day when he was brought to the surgery, he was lying there very weak and tired, and they seems to be like uninteresting. But today, when he was allowed to come out of the room, other dogs just came and started inspecting him. After rolling him over and thoroughly inspecting him, actually, when this Tricki is a new fellow into this hospital, so other experienced one or other members of the hospital started inspecting him, and they started rolling over him. And afterwards, after a good thorough checkup, all the dogs moved off to the garden. Tricki slowly followed them, rolling. Why rolling? Because he can't walk properly, isn't it? And only for 2 days he controlled his diet. So somehow now he manages to walk, isn't it? That's why rolling slightly with his surplus fat. Surplus fat means the the fat in his body. He was too much. Heavy body he was having, isn't it? So he moved. Next paragraph. Later that day, I was present at the feeding time. I watched while Tristan slopped the food into the bowls. There was the usual headlong rush, followed by the sound of high-speed eating. Every dog knew that it was that if he fell behind the others, he was liable to have some competition for the last part of his. So what happened? So this doctor started checking on to this Tricki, and that day also, at the end of the 3rd day also, he was not given food, special food for him. So during the feeding time, or when the food was served for the dogs, rest of the dogs, I watched Tristan slop the food into bowls. Okay, this Tristan is another dog in that surgery. Okay, he just slop means spill out some food into the bowls, and there was unusual headlong rush followed by followed by the sounds of the high-speed eating. Every dog was eating, isn't it? And what we see here is all the dogs were eating very fastly, because when the food was put into their bowls, they know that if they don't come and eat the food on time, after finishing the food, other dogs will come and have their food. So in order to avoid this competition, in order to avoid this rush, when Tristan put the food into the bowls, all the dogs rushed and started eating their food. Okay, and by the time who also might have moved there, when all the dogs finished their food, next paragraph, Tricki took a walk round the shining bowls, licking casually inside 1 or 2 of them. The next day, an extra bowl was put for him, and I was pleased to see him jostling in his way towards it. Okay, so the next day what will happen? When the food was served, on the 4th day, a separate bowl was given for whom also? For Tricki also. So, slowly he started walking. Then, jostling means what? Jostling means pushing or bumping against other. Okay. The next day, when extra bowl was arranged for Tricki, he also started to take his food, and he was jostling his way towards other. That is, he was just bumping on other dogs as he was about to get his food. Okay. Then, from then on, his progress was rapid. He had no medicinal treatment of any kind, but all the day he ran about with other dogs, joining in their friendly scrimmages. He discovered the joys of being bowled over, trampled of the gang, an unlikely, silky little object among the shaggy crew, fighting like a tiger for his share at the meal times, and hunting rats in the old hen house at night. He had never had such a time in his life. So what we see here is, okay, from that day onwards, slowly he started walking, Tricki started running, and he started fighting with other dogs for food, isn't it? And also, they say that joining in the friendly scrimmages. Scrimmages means friendly fight. How other dogs with much love and friendly ambience, they used to roll upon each other. They used to fight each other. Likewise, this Tricki is also doing. For Tricki, this is the first experience in his life, because he was just leading a very prestigious life in his home with the owner, Mrs. Pumphrey. So here, this is a new experience that he was mingling along with other dogs. He was fighting with them for food and all. And also he just seems to be all this as a new experience, and he had much joy in getting tramped. Tramped means what? Getting crushed with the gang. And also he moved like a silky little object among the shaggy crew. Shaggy crew here means thick crew. Crew means a group of dogs. Okay. So along with other dogs, he was also moving in a silky manner. That is just a small dog, isn't it? And fighting like a tiger for his share at the meal time. And at night, what he used to do? At night, he started hunting rats in the old hen house. So all this experience is very new to our Tricki. There is no 5-star facilities here, but still then he can able to mingle well with other dogs, enjoy his time running, fighting, then crushing, isn't it? Getting tramped, and also at nights he can go to the old hen house for hunting rats also. Okay. And what happened now? By this time, can you just imagine what might have happened to Mrs. Pumphrey? And all the while, Mrs. Pumphrey hovered anxiously in the background, ringing a dozen times a day for the latest bulletins. I dodged the question about whether his cushions were being turned regularly or his correct coat worn according to weather, but I was able to tell her that the little fellow was out of danger and convulsing rapidly. So what happened? On the other side, what we say, that is Mrs. Pumphrey was very much worried about whom? Very much worried about this Tricki. And here the doctor says that she used to make calls dozen at time. What is a dozen at time? Dozen means 12, isn't it? So dozen times a day. That means after 1 hour, half an hour, she used to make calls and she used to inquire about this Tricki. And her concern was about what? Whether the cushions were changed regularly, whether the cots or the dresses were put according to the weather condition, whether bed sheets were changed for his bed regularly. All this was the concern for our owner, Mrs. Pumphrey. She is so anxious to know. So how many times she used to make a call? She used to make dozen times a day to get the updates of Tricki. And also she used to ask about changing coats and beds regularly. But what the doctor did, I dodged the question about weather. Dodged means I purposely ignore the questions asked by Mrs. Pumphrey about changing coats and beds regularly. He doesn't want to answer because this is not done properly here, isn't it? And also she is very conscious about what is that, keeping the dog in such a clean, healthy manner, isn't it? But he was now here enjoying with the rest of the dogs here, isn't it? So the only thing the doctor was able to tell her that this little fellow was out of danger. That means he started eating the food, he started running with other dogs, he started fighting with other dogs for food, isn't it? And was out of danger and convulsing rapidly. Convulsing here means recovering or getting out of danger. He was recovering rapidly. Rapidly means in a very speedy manner. Okay. The word convulsing seems to do something to Mrs. Pumphrey. So after hearing that, he is doing good, he is having much improvement. She thought that, this is the best time. What is it? She started to bring a round, fresh eggs, 2 dozen at a time, to build up the Tricki's strength. And for a happy period, my partners and I had 2 eggs each for breakfast. And when the bottles of wine began to arrive, the real possibilities of the situation began to dawn to household. It was to enrich Tricki's blood. Lunch became a ceremonial occasion with 2 glasses of wine before and several during the meal. So when Mrs. Pumphrey heard that he is recovering fastly, she thought of bringing what? Dozens of eggs for building, what is that? Tricki's strength. And also she thought of bringing what? Wine. For what? To enrich Tricki's blood. And actually, who is celebrating? Here it says that when this Pumphrey bought this eggs and this wine, Mr. Herriot and his partners were just enjoying each and every day by taking 2 eggs for breakfast and 2 glasses of wine before lunch and few along with it. Actually, they were not giving these eggs and wines to whom? To our Tricki, isn't it? Actually, her intention was to give eggs and glasses of wines to Tricki. But actually, who is taking? Mr. Herriot and his partners were taking all these things. I think we can stop here for the time being and we can continue the rest in the next class. So what we have seen here is Tricki was taken to the surgery. He was given only food on the 3rd day or after 3rd day. Only on the 4th day he was given food. So he started walking, jostling with other dogs. He joined with other dogs in running, playing and bumping. And he started making friendly fights with other dogs for food, isn't it? And started hunting rats in the hen house, which seems to be a new experience in the surgery, and become a active member. Tricki became an active member in the surgery. Then Mrs. Pumphrey, when she came to know about what is that, she wanted to get updates of this Tricki, so she used to make calls dozen times a day, and she was asking about changing coats and beds regularly. But our doctor was not purposefully ignoring this question and was not giving answer. The only thing that he said is, he is getting better and improved. When she came to know about this, she started sending 2 dozens eggs at a time and bottles of wine to improve the strength and quality of blood of our Tricki. And actually, who is just making use of this eggs, isn't it? Mr. Herriot, our doctor, along with his partners, just celebrates each breakfast by taking 2 eggs for each of them, and also 2 glasses of wine before lunch and a few along with them. Okay, this is what we can see in this part. Thank you all. Have a great day.